Welcome to Tom Gresham's Gun Talk, where a right is always a right, not a privilege.
All right, let's talk about guns, because you know what? This is Gun Talk, and I'm Tom Gresham. I'm your host. If you'd like to be a part of this, 866-TALK-GUN gets you in here. A lot of things for us to talk about. We are live today doing a remote broadcast from Gunsite, the Harvard, if you will, of gunfighting schools. Basically, you understand that gunfighting, the operative word there is fighting. It's not gun. You're learning to fight, and you fight with a gun, but sometimes you fight with other things. And that's frankly what I'm doing out here. I called them a couple of weeks, 3 weeks ago. I said, hey, I just had a week opened up. Do you guys have an opening? I went online, I looked, and they have the close quarters pistol class. And I looked at that and went, well, that looks interesting, because I've already taken the 250 class a couple of times. So what is that? So I'm looking, well, it's close quarters, and, well, I don't know. And then I saw, well, Steve Tarani is teaching. Oh, cool. Okay, Steve's already been on the radio show before. I know Steve. So we brought him in. He's going to tell me right now what I'm getting into. Steve, welcome.
Good to see you again, Tom. Been a while.
Absolutely. So, okay, first of all, some quick background on you. Martial arts, knives, handheld weapons, shooting, all the rest of it. Mm-hmm. You worked for various agencies. Mm-hmm. You might just give them a little quick background what you've done.
My martial arts base comes from the Filipino martial arts, Indonesian martial arts, anything that has to do with exotic weapons, edged, impact, flexible, things like that. Okay. Spent a very long period of time ensconced in that study. Worked for a little bit for Pershing County Sheriff's Office for a bit, and then I was a federal contractor and did lots of work for pretty much any three-letter agency you can think of with a vowel. I've done something for. Okay. And then, but most of my time was with DEA and CIA, and I was a contractor for several years. And then I was asked to come on board. Great. And went through the whole clearance process and all that, and got hired, went full time, ended up in protective programs, and I spent my time working in the protective side.
Yeah, and at the same time, you have been available and teaching regular folks like me. I want to call it safety. It's fighting, it's yes guns, yes knives, yes other things. But it's like I'm looking at your book here, Your Most Powerful Weapon, How to Use Your Mind to Stay Safe. That's kind of where it all starts.
Right. And, everybody, over the years, people have come up to me and said, well, what would you do if, the guy's got a knife on your throat and you're against the wall? In my opinion, you failed about 73 things you could have done before that.
Yeah. What can we do to not get in that position,
How
right?
about not getting yourself in that position? And I've written several books on the subject, and there's any type of a physical threat, there's a progression of activities that occur. It just doesn't come out of the blue.
It doesn't just pop up. Okay.
It's a series of events, what we use the word pre-attack behaviors, that you can recognize, identification of a threat recognition, to be able to stop it long before it gets to the end of that progression, which is the result of that progression is a physical threat.
I think about it in aviation, we talk about the accident chain. It's not the accident. Several things had to happen to get you to this accident. And if you can break the chain somewhere along the way, you don't get to the accident. Is it the same thing here?
Absolutely identical. Yep.
Okay.
Right on.
Essential in that, it seems to me, is recognizing that something's happening, is being aware of it.
Correct. And that's the several chapters of my last two books are committed to that situational awareness. Everybody thinks, situational awareness, what is it? It's looking around. Okay, great. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good start.
That's a good start, right? It's a little more to the puzzle. There's more tools in the toolkit. And many of these tools come to us from the field of protective intelligence, being able to utilize that. Yes, you know what situational awareness is, but how can you use it to control your environment? Okay. And that's the guts.
Give an example. What are you talking about?
Well, you've got sensory input. If you can see an issue. In other words, let me back it up before we even go there. Have you ever looked at your watch with your eyes to see what time it is and have done it again?
Yes.
Yeah, or driven past the exit you've driven home 100 times before.
And you blow right by it.
Right. Your eyes are on it, but you didn't see it.
You're not taking it in.
So why does that happen? what do you think the reason why that happened is? Most people, they're not there mentally.
You're not focused on what you're actually doing and what you're looking at.
I call it the little skinny pedal on the right, the gas pedal, the mind gas pedal, having that mental focus. And you have to be there. Henry David Thoreau, it's not what you look at that matters, it's what you see.
Well, we've all done that. How many times have you driven and realized, I actually don't remember the last 3 minutes of driving? I'm safe, and I've been driving, but I couldn't tell you what I went by or what happened.
Clear. That's exactly my point. So it starts there, being able to differentiate between looking and seeing. If you can focus your mental gas pedal, so to speak, on the seeing part, then at least you're not just putting your eyes on it, you're seeing it.
That takes a conscious effort. It's like, okay, this is actually going to be some degree of work to look at things and work at seeing what's really going on here. What's not right? I mean, one example is when you walk into the convenience store, the 7-Eleven, did you look around and actually see that there's a guy standing over there frozen, the clerk is frozen, there's a guy standing in front of him, there are 3 people back in the corner there who are huddled up? No, you just blew in and went to get your Coca-Cola or whatever, right?
Right. Or your focus is elsewhere. Maybe it's on your phone.
The phone. Oh my gosh!
Staring at their phone. You've seen it 100 times.
You got the phone and you got the earbuds, which I call the great sensory deprivation device.
Yes.
So you don't know anything that's going on around you.
Right. And then so that's the first layer.
Okay.
And we talk about layers of complexity, which we'll cover more in the class. But having some of the tools in the toolkit, such as knowing your levels of awareness, you turn up your personal security radar a couple of notches when you go to a bad part of town, and you turn it down, you click it down when you go to a good part of town.
Okay.
It's when you don't click it up or down, or you apply the wrong condition of awareness for the wrong environment. That's what gets you in trouble.
Okay.
Or avoiding something that, not paying the right amount of attention to something that you should be paying the right amount of attention to.
And then one of the things I think and I've said this for years, that I think gets people into trouble is an unwillingness to possibly offend someone. Where you see something going on, yeah, I know, but I don't like that, what's going on the sidewalk in front of me. I would really like to go somewhere else, but it might offend those people if I reacted that way to them. Sometimes I think trying to be nice can actually get you hurt.
Absolutely. Case in point, I have a good friend of mine worked a case, and I was doing the research for one of my books, and he relayed this case to me. There was a female clerk in a store closing up at night, and I don't care how it gets on your radar, whether you see it visually, hear it, get a hunch or intuitive hit, whatever it is that gets your awareness tentacles going,
right.
You should pay attention to it. So she's closing up shop that night, and the way it was explained to me, she had locked the door, glass door, and a guy was knocking on the door, trying to get in and say, hey, I want to buy something for my wife. It's her birthday. She says, I'm sorry, sir, through the glass, the store's closed. Everything inside her was telling her, don't open that door. Just she got that intuitive hit that this is not good.
There's a bad feeling about it.
She overrode that feeling and said, I can't be impolite. The poor guy's trying to buy a gift for his wife. So she opens the door, and, you can imagine the rest of the story there.
Yeah. Wow. Steve, hold on a second. I'm going to take a quick break here. We're talking with Steve Tarani. We're out at Gunsite. I'm going to be taking this close quarters pistol class, which is going to involve more than pistols, I gather, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good deal. We'll be right back with more Gun Talk.
The pistol that redefined pocket carry just got even better. The Ruger LCP-2 has improved sights, an easy-to-rack slide, a larger textured grip surface for a secure grip and recoil reduction, and a short, crisp, single-action trigger pull for real-world accuracy. It's so small and light that there's no reason to ever leave home without your LCP-2. A serious pistol in a pint-sized package. Learn more about the LCP-2 at Ruger.com.
Attacks happen every day. How will you react? See real people put into real-life criminal attack situations on First Person Defender. Discover what works and what doesn't. Kidnapping, ATM robbery, home invasion, and other attacks. Learn how to save your life and the lives of your family. Get the entire first season on DVD at shopguntalk.com. Get prepared. shopguntalk.com.
Since 1937, Ducks Unlimited has led the charge on wetlands and waterfowl conservation. Wetlands reduce the effects of flooding and recharge our drinking water. But perhaps most importantly, they allow us to experience what makes the outdoors so great. Band together to rescue our wetlands.
Want great deals on guns, ammunition, and gear? Download the free Gundealio app today. With Gundealio, you can search for deals, listen to the Gun Talk podcast, watch gun videos, read gun news, and get notifications right to your phone about deals and special offers. Save money on the products you want from the companies you love. New deals, discounts, and rebates added daily. Gundealio, available for free in the App Store and Google Play.
The next big thing for the AR-15 has arrived. The Brownells BRN 180 Upper. A modernized version of the Armalite AR-180. Featuring a 16-inch barrel, a .223 wild chamber, and a full-length pick rail. The BRN 180 skips the buffer system to allow complete function of the firearm with the stock folded or extended. Best of all, the Brownells BRN 180 mounts to any mil-spec AR lower. Visit brownells.com today.
All right, back with you. We're talking with Steve Tarani. He is the author of Your Most Powerful Weapon, How to Use Your Mind and Stay Safe. A self-defense instructor, guns, knives, edged weapons, flexible tools, basically anything you can pick up and whack somebody with. How important, a lot of people go, they say, man, I got my gun, I'm ready to go. It's kind of like you're going from nothing to lethal. Talk about the need to have something to fill in that gap.
Great. Yeah, I get that question a lot. You know, well, I hear this all the time. Well, I'll just shoot them. I go to the range, I train, I'll just shoot them.
Right.
Okay, well, there are many situations. Okay, let's say you're in a mall and there's a group of people behind the target area and you can't take the shot. Now what?
Yeah, what do you do?
Or he's right on top of you. You turn around, he's right in your face. You have less than 0.7 of a second to respond. I doubt you're going to defeat your cover garment, defeat any retention device on your holster, and be able to deploy the weapon in that amount of time.
When he's already got his hands on you.
Even more so.
Yeah, I mean, literally, if you don't know how to get somebody off of you, you're not going to be able to get to your gun.
Absolutely. So there are times where you maybe perhaps the firearm is the appropriate tool to solve that problem. However, it may not be the right time to do that. So you may have to create the space and the time to be able to use that tool if needed.
I will tell you that when I first heard your name, it was out here at Gunsite, and you got some pretty bad guys out here who have been there and done stuff. And when they talked about you, they all get that big wide-eyed look. What is it about knives that scares the crap out of people?
Well, first of all, that look comes from the $20 I spend each month on those guys.
That's good investment. Yeah. No, they go, have you ever seen this guy with a knife? What is it about knives that makes our eyes go wide open like that?
Most people would rather be shot than cut open with a knife. That's kind of a general consensus, because knives are any type of edge. I don't want to limit it to a knife, but
right.
Broken piece of glass, whatever it may be. Up close and personal, looking at the guy in the eye and having a physically violent threat that close to you where they're actually sticking a screwdriver in your belly, that's something that, most people don't confront that type of violence on a daily basis. So it's they'd rather be at a non-contact distance where, hey, I'll just press a button on this little thing in my hand. It's a little bit more comfortable.
Right. The other thing is, it occurs to me, most people have not been shot, but almost everybody's been cut.
That's correct.
So they actually have a better appreciation for that than they do of what a gunshot would be.
Yes.
In a weird kind of a way there.
Yeah.
Everybody I know, every guy I know carries a pocket knife. Every one of them thinks that they're ready to go into a fight. I'll use my knife if I need to. What do they not know?
Well, like any tool, if if I handed you a scalpel and said, okay, you need to do open heart surgery on this guy, you're going to look at me like, I don't care if it's the best scalpel in the world. You just don't have the training and the background and the experience to utilize that for that particular function.
Right.
And that's the same thing with a pocket knife. You can have the best crafted pocket knife that fits your hand and opens in a half a second and all that stuff, but if you don't know how to use it in personal defense, it doesn't serve you.
Can people get useful training in this kind of stuff? Is there anything people could learn in, say, a day class somewhere that would be, I don't know, getting people off of you, whatever? What do people have to do to get better?
I'll go back to my medical analogy. You're a heart surgeon and you have one day to teach someone everything you know. It can't be done.
Okay.
But you can teach them, okay, this is a Band-Aid. This is how you use a Band-Aid. This is how you maybe do CPR.
It's a tourniquet or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tourniquet might save the guy's life. So you go over the touch points, the basics to make them a little bit more functional than having no training at all.
Okay. Is a knife a good self-defense tool?
In my opinion, whether it's an edge weapon, impact weapon, flexible weapon, a hammer, a cup of coffee,
right.
Anything in your hand can be used as a weapon of opportunity if needed, if you have the skill. If there's no skill and you just throw it at the guy, that might buy you a few seconds, which is scalding pot of coffee in the face. That might buy you a minute to get out of the building or whatever.
A friend of mine who worked for a similar agency, basically the same guy, place you worked, was telling me when he gets on the airlines, he asks for a can of Coke unopened. He says, if I've got an unopened can of Coke, he says, I can do some damage because he has the skills like you do, right? And I'm thinking, once again, I never thought of that. That's fascinating. And all of that kind of awareness comes from being with people who think about that stuff all the time. I tell people, like, one of the reasons you go to trainers is to go with people who that's all they do. That's all you do is think about safety, security, awareness. How do I use this tool? What would I do with that? I'll never be as good as you, but I'm going to spend 5 days with you. The next 5 days, I'm going to come out knowing a whole bunch more than I do right now at this moment.
Absolutely. And it's not just, a lot of people say, well, I want to learn the secret technique, Ninja Technique 27J, whatever. Well, I was teaching, most of what I do these days is train the trainer. A few years back, this is going back a bit, I was teaching down in Quantico, and we had some instructors down there in that area, and they were allowed to ask me at the end of the week, some questions they had about teaching, because they're now going out to become teachers themselves.
Okay.
So they said to me, Mr. Tarani, what's the one technique that works every single time? Well, the answer. There's no such thing, because if there was, it'd be on the internet. We'd all know what it is.
Right. And why take the class, right?
Right. So there really is there's no one technique that works for everything. No such thing. But you can learn as with any art or skill, you can learn the basics to keep you as safe as you can be with the tools that you have.
And honestly, a lot of us, we're not going to the gym. We're not physically fit. Some of us are older. Are there things that you can learn that are useful when you don't have those physical skills?
Right. Integral part of the class coming up is what I call the dynamics of personal security. It's to be able to use the tools that you have available to you that are not in your hand. For example, how far away are you from the threat? Being able to control your distance, being able to control your position relative to the threat if you can't change your distance, being able to control your mobility, stay in control of your balance. These are the basics of staying in control of those components of a fight that will give you the advantage.
What about, I was going to ask you, I don't know if this is covered in the class, but are we going to do things like you're in the middle of a group of people who are the innocents, and you got to work your way through and deal with a threat that's where you've got good people all around?
Yes, that's correct. It's real world. You have to, the environment dictates your technique. That's the bottom line.
Okay.
No matter what secret ninja move you might have, if you can't execute that in your environment, it's completely nullified.
Yeah, if you're surrounded by school kids, there's a lot of things you can't do.
Yeah.
You just got to work with that.
Exactly. And this is the class gives you, it starts off with the awareness piece and how to use the that to your advantage. And then failing that, it's like we always use the iceberg analogy. If you don't look for an iceberg, you're not going to be able to drive around it if you see one.
Tell me about your newsletter.
This is a newsletter that comes out monthly, and it's open source intelligence. And what that is information that I get, nothing classified, of course, but information that comes to me that we believe is current and emerging threats, or that we should be aware of. And I pass this on to my students and clients and friends that are interested in that information.
Is that a newsletter that people pay to get?
No, there's no cost for it. You can go onto my website, stevetarani.com, and just jump on.
And let me spell that, Steve, and then Tarani. It's 1 R, 1 N. So Tarani, stevetarani.com. You can sign up to get the open source intelligence newsletter.
Yes, sir.
And it's not just things that are threats that are out there, but it's also you got some interesting tidbits, not real instruction, because you can't do that in a newsletter, but things like, I'm looking at the one that just came out today, is the 21-foot rule clarified. What's that?
Right, that's from Dennis Tueller, way back in the day, and they actually have Dennis now on this video on YouTube, and he does a really good job clarifying what he meant by and goes into more detail.
Because there's a lot of misinformation about that.
Much so, yeah. First of all, it's not a rule, but he does a great job, and he's the guy. I mean, he's the founder of it.
So, I mean, for those who don't know it, basically the concept is that if somebody is within 21 feet of you and you're going to try to draw a gun, chances are they can get to you before you can draw, especially if you're doing the reaction, right?
Right. The meat and potatoes of that have been done, numerous studies through the Department of Defense and other agencies where they'll put a couple of guys in simunitions gear and protective gear and they'll say, okay, here you go, this is your and now they're using 30 feet instead of 21.
Ooh, okay.
And it's an average a military age male between ages 18 and 32 can close the gap of 30 feet in under 2 seconds.
Holy cow. Amazing stuff. Steve, I'm looking forward to it. We're going to have fun this week.
It's going to be a great class.
Yeah, it really is. Steve Tarani, check it out. SteveTarani.com. The book, Your Most Powerful Weapon. It is How to Use Your Mind and Stay Safe, one of your books. On Amazon, I take it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Tarani is Tarani, again, for those who didn't get that. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you. I appreciate that. We're going to have some fun.
Thank you, Tom.
All right, good deal. All right, 866-TALK-GUN. We're at Gunsite. If you have questions, if you'd like to weigh in, by all means do that. I'm Tom Gresham. This is Gun Talk.
This is Milo Lardbottom, Junior Under Assistant Deputy to the Assistant Director of Deputy Affairs for the Department of Homeland Security, with a special message for listeners of Tom Gresham's Gun Talk. We know who you are. We know where you are. You're right by your radio. We have special cameras that can see into your radio. I have a special monitor built into my aluminum foil helmet. We are watching you, so don't try anything funny, Buster.
All right, we're back with you. Tom Gresham, it's Gun Talk, and I'm live at Gunsite. And one of the big stories breaking in the last few days coming out of California was a decision by a judge there to throw out California's magazine ban, saying that it violates the Second Amendment. I am so happy we were able to get Chuck Michel to join us right now because, of course, it was Michel Associates, his group that argued this case, who took this lawsuit. And, Chuck, thank you for being here. This thing is breaking so fast. I would love it if you could give us some background on this case and how it came about.
Sure, and then we can get to some of the questions. I'm getting thousands of questions from people trying to figure out exactly what this thing means. But remember, back in 2000, Senator Don Parada, pushed through a bill that bans the acquisition or importation of magazines that can hold over 10 rounds, but he grandfathered in everyone that had one at that point in time. So in theory, at least, that bill back in 2000 froze the number of magazines that can hold over 10 rounds in the state of California, and stuck them with the people that had them at that time. So those people were grandfathered in. Then in 2008, we got the Heller case. The Heller case gave us a Second Amendment as an individual right, and then there was a whole slew of litigation launched across the country. Then in 2016, Gavin Newsom, running for governor, pushed Prop 63 through. And one of the things that Prop 63 did was ban the possession of magazines that can hold over 10 rounds by everyone. The possession. It had not banned possession before. It had just banned importation, and it had grandfathered in folks. But now all those folks who had been grandfathered in, who obviously were not people that are out committing crimes, would have been banned from possessing them. So we used the Heller case to file a lawsuit challenging the Prop 63 and the magazine possession ban. We're also challenging the ammunition licensing ban portion of that as well, but that's a different case. And
if I can, Chuck, let me jump in for a second, because one of the key issues of or provisions of the Heller case is that guns in common use cannot be banned, and that's one of the things you added onto or are dependent upon for this case, right?
Exactly, yes. First, we have to get over the hurdle. They try and claim that a magazine is not an arm, quote unquote, that's protected by the Second Amendment at all because it's not a firearm. And then they argued that it wasn't in common use. and I love this doublethink that government lawyers do. They said, well, it's not in common use. And we pointed out, yeah, well, first of all, it is. But if they aren't in California, it's because there's been a law in place for 19 years prohibiting anyone from acquiring them. There's huge pent-up demand for these magazines. But in any event, Judge Benitez applied that common use test and found that magazines deserve all the protection that the Second Amendment gives a regular firearm. And so the magazine possession ban would have taken place on July 1st, 2017. We filed our lawsuit in May 2017 and sought a preliminary injunction. We got that preliminary injunction on June 29th. So what those magazines that would have been illegal to possess, we've got a preliminary injunction. Remember, our lawsuit sought a permanent injunction, but while we litigated the issue whether or not we would get a permanent injunction, we sought a preliminary injunction to basically maintain the status quo and allow those people who had been grandfathered in to continue to keep their firearms their magazines while the rest of the case was litigated. They tried to take that up to the Ninth Circuit, and remember, it was an appeal from a preliminary injunction. The Ninth Circuit did not overturn the preliminary injunction, left that preliminary injunction in place. But it's important for folks to understand they didn't really get to the Second Amendment issue in that round in the Ninth Circuit. Meanwhile, while that appeal went through the system, the trial court case kept moving along, and we ultimately filed a motion for summary judgment seeking that permanent injunction in May 2018. And we sought that permanent injunction not just against the ban on possession from 2016, but also against the 2000 law that made it illegal to acquire these magazines. And that's what this judge, as far as we're concerned, and I got to caution everybody, we haven't heard from the DOJ lawyers. This came out late Friday afternoon. The DOJ lawyers were gone, and they are no doubt huddled up with the lawyers for Gavin Newsom's office, trying to figure out what they can do to try and spin this. Remember, when Heller came down, everybody thought it was pretty clear what it meant. Well, 10 years later, the courts have bent over intellectually backwards to interpret it differently. So we have to see if the DOJ is going to try and play games with how this opinion is interpreted. And if they do, we'll go in and ask the judge to amend the judgment and make it clear that it does cover the acquisition, so you can possess and acquire magazines that hold over 10 rounds. But I think it's clear right now, and I know there's a lot of people out there trying to buy these this weekend, and there are certain gun stores that are selling them. You know, I certainly relate to the attitude of trying to do that. I know there's pent-up demand. I know people have been suffering under an oppressive California regulatory regime for a long time. But I'm sure that come Tuesday, because I think tomorrow is a holiday, the DOJ lawyers will be in court seeking a stay of the injunction that allows these magazines to be acquired again. And I think the Ninth Circuit will probably grant that again to maintain the status quo. So they'll say anybody who had them before, they're still grandfathered in. They're not prohibited from possessing them. But new people, the portion of this injunction that says that the law that banned you from acquiring them is struck down, that will be I suspect, will be stayed by the Ninth Circuit.
Right.
So anybody that gets a magazine over this weekend, I'm not sure what the legal status of that will be. So
if you could find one today, maybe you should, but who knows what the legal status is going to be. Chuck, I got to get you, hold on a second. Let me run to a quick break here. When we come back, that's kind of where we want to go next is, okay, well, what do we do now? If you're in California, can you have one? What do you do? What's the legal status? We're talking with Chuck Michel about this incredible case. And I tell you, if you get a chance, read the judge's decision. It is powerful. I'm Tom Gresham. We'll be right back with more Gun Talk.
Hey, this is Marty Dangle of Dangle Defense. For years, we've been bringing the highest quality ARs to our consumers at a great value. Now we're doing that same thing again with our Delta 5 bolt-action rifle. It combines the accuracy and durability we're known for with the modularity of our AR platform. And it comes with the features the best shooters will want right out of the box. Visit DanielDefense.com to learn more. Isn't it time you got a Daniel?
Hi, this is Ryan Gresham from Gun Talk. If you like guns, you need to enter our biggest giveaway ever at guntalk.com/win. One person will win more than $11,000 in guns, gear, and accessories to stuff your safe or hit the range. The grand prize includes a night vision scope and rangefinder from ATN, a custom 1911 from Auto Ordnance, a Crossbreed Holsters concealed carry pack, an FN 509 tactical pistol, the ultimate gun safe organizer pack from Gun Storage Solutions, a custom Glock 22 from Lone Wolf Distributors, clothing, range bags, and more from Proper, Remington's 870 DM and TAC 14, plus 2 cases of buckshot, Stag Arms Stag 15 tactical rifle, Tandem Cross rimfire customization kits, a Ruger Mark IV pistol, and much, much more. Go to guntalk.com/win to enter. That's guntalk.com/win.
Hi, this is Tom Gresham from Gun Talk. America is losing critical wildlife habitat at a rate of 1 football field every hour. It's happening on the Louisiana coast, but it's critical to all sportsmen and conservationists. These precious wetlands provide winter habitat for more than 10 million ducks and geese annually, waterfowl that migrate north through dozens of states. Don't shrug it off. Get involved. You can help. Visit vanishingparadise.org.
Built for personal and home protection, the Smith & Wesson M&P 380 Shield EZ pistol features an easy-to-load magazine with load assist button, an easy-to-rack slide, and the M2.0 crisp trigger and enhanced grip texture. With its easy-to-rack, easy-to-pack, and easy-to-shoot design, the M&P 380 Shield EZ is perfectly sized 380 protection. Find out more at smith-wesson.com.
All right, back with Tom Gresham. We're visiting with Chuck Michel. His firm just argued and got this incredible decision in California where the judges ruled unconstitutional California's ban on standard capacity magazines holding more than 10 rounds. Chuck, one of the things I think people need to understand, and I know Californians probably get this, is that we're not talking about necessarily buying extra magazines. If you bought a Glock 17 and it came with a 17-round magazine, that magazine that came factory standard, that was covered in this. It would have been banned.
Oh, it was banned. After 2000, all of the manufacturers had to package a special version of their firearm for California. The Glock 17 could not come with a 17-round mag. It had to start coming with a 10. And that went for every manufacturer. They had to start doing a California special package for guns that were being sold in California. They couldn't have a magazine over 10 rounds. So, yeah, it's been a huge inconvenience and a huge deprivation of everybody who wanted one of these. And the greatest thing about this judge's decision is he took a page right out of the gun ban lobby's playbook. He started off with some very emotionally appealing examples of how people have been could have been killed because they didn't have a magazine that held over 10 rounds.
This was, I got to tell you, one of the most powerful decisions I have seen come down in favor of Second Amendment rights from a judge. I don't know, I mean, you see this more than I do, but when I was reading, I'm just going, this is really powerful stuff. This is good stuff.
Yeah, this Judge Benitez is him and his family were refugees from communist Cuba. I mean, he's seen tyranny up close and personal, and I think that I'd like to think that had some influences on his thinking, but I think he also there's so much misinformation out there, and a lot of judges who may not know anything about guns are so susceptible to being deceived by that misinformation. He knew and knows something about firearms, and so was able to see through the baloney that the government tries to push and justify these kinds of infringements. We all know it's false. All gun owners know it's false, but not every judge does, unfortunately, and Judge Benitez luckily understood.
Okay, so where we are right now, as I gathered, on Friday the judge issues this decision that this ban on magazines, more than 10-round magazines, is unconstitutional. It's gone. He has enjoined his permanent injunction on that as of Friday, and then you're saying, but on Tuesday you're liable to get a stay of this, where the Ninth Circuit says, okay, time out, everybody, just take a deep breath until we work this thing out. But we've got this 3-day window when, are they legal right now?
Well, we don't know if we have a 3-day window. The judge did issue a judgment, which would imply that the order that went along with the judgment is final and the injunction is final. And everything that I've looked at suggests that that's the case, that this is a final order, a final judgment, so that injunction is in place right now against enforcement. But I don't know what the DOJ lawyers may come up with. I'm sure they have law clerks scouring the law books right now, trying to find some way to say that you don't have the ability to acquire one of these magazines, between the time that the judgment comes down and the time that they seek a stay. Will they find something? We couldn't, but I just unfortunately haven't had a chance, the opportunity to talk to the opposing counsel at the DOJ yet. But I'm sure they're not going to want to, I can just see the inflammatory headlines. I must say I'll probably take some pleasure in it. Thousands of magazines come into the state.
Right.
After this. Yeah, after the injunction.
Well, now, let me ask you, usually when a judge issues an order like this, and it's a decision, is it law at that point? I mean, immediately as soon as it comes out?
It usually is when as far as we can tell, when the judgment comes down, not necessarily the order, but the judgment. And in this case, the judge issued a judgment with the order. So sometimes you get an order, and then there's some time to argue about things before the order is made final through a judgment. But in this case, the judge issued a judgment, and he made it clear that he was enjoining enforcement of the entire statute that bans both the possession and the acquisition. But again, is DOJ going to try and make some hair-splitting argument that they think the Ninth Circuit will buy into?
Probably.
Look at what the Ninth Circuit has done with the Heller opinion. I mean, that was
basically
about as close to black and white. I thought it was black and white. They've completely twisted it.
Hold just a second, Chuck. This is important. I want to carry this over. Yeah, I know we're going long on this one, but this is a really important case. We're talking with Chuck Michel. When we come back, it's basically going to be, okay, what do you do in the next few days, and what is this going to mean to us? Where do we go with this? Ninth Circuit, maybe even Supreme Court? I don't know, but Chuck probably has an idea. We're talking with Chuck Michel about this amazing case out of California. And Chuck, one of the things I was going to ask you, for people who are in other states or not in California, they're thinking, yeah, but what does this mean to me? It actually does have implications and ramifications, doesn't it?
Well, you might, just like some folks in California might be able to acquire them, folks out of the state might be able to import them into California while this injunction is in place. But and manufacturers or suppliers of these magazines may be able to ship them into California. But all of this is really risky and dangerous. I know there's a pent-up demand, and believe me, I'm all for the whole come and take them attitude. But we don't need more test cases. We don't want folks to have to spend thousands of dollars explaining to a prosecutor that this injunction was in place, so what I did wasn't illegal. I mean, they'll file a lawsuit, they'll file a criminal complaint first and ask questions later. If folks can wait, we will have a frequently asked questions bulletin coming out on Monday or Tuesday that should explain answer all these questions. Folks can get that from my Twitter account at CRPA President or from CRPA.org.
That's California Rifle and Pistol Association. Yeah, California Rifle and Pistol Association, CRPA.org. Okay. Right.
And we'll have a frequently asked questions information bulletin coming out where we're trying to answer all these questions. We're on all the forums right now looking at all the questions that people have posted. We're trying to answer them all. In the meantime, I just want to make sure folks know this is one of dozens of lawsuits that the CRPA and NRA are litigating together in California, and there are dozens more that the NRA is litigating across the country. There's this theme out here in California that the NRA has given up on California. Nothing could be further from the truth. NRA spends more out here than it takes in from this state on all the different things it's doing to fight back. And we should do another segment on that sometime because I don't think people realize. But you need to join NRA, join CRPA. Neither one of them is perfect, but don't let the perfect stop you from supporting all the great things that both of those associations are doing.
Absolutely. The other thing is that there are other states where they have these magazines bans, these limits, and I could see this thing going through the Ninth Circuit, end up with the Supreme Court, so there could be national implications to this case.
You're absolutely right. Magazines, semi-auto bans, we have the New York City case that the Supreme Court will hear, and this has always been about what is the standard of review going to be when a Second Amendment challenge is brought against a gun ban. And if it's some kind of deferential standard, which is what the Ninth Circuit applies, then almost everything is upheld. They don't seriously question the government's justifications. That's what this Duncan decision did so beautifully. He did not just accept the government's word for it. He scrutinized, whether you call it strict scrutiny or just taking a hard look under intermediate scrutiny, and those are levels of criticism of critical review that a law will get by a court.
Chuck, I am just flat out of time. We're going to have to pick this up. I would encourage people to check it out, CRPA.org, to find out what's happening in the next few days there. And then, if you would, please keep us posted.
Will do. Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much. Chuck Michel, always a pleasure. Man, these guys are working right out there on the front line. This is huge. This case could be huge. In the meantime, I'm going to be taking a class out here at Gunsite. We're going to be having some fun. If you'd like to be part of the after show, call us right now, 866-TALK-GUN. We'll talk about self-defense training and a whole lot of other things. In the meantime, make a commitment to up your training, and that means instruction, not just practice. I'm Tom Gresham. Be careful out there.